I have a secret. It's one I keep with me in my backpack, in my room, in my head. It's one that's been with me for years, and one until now I've tried to hide. I have clinical depression. I know that this is nothing to be ashamed of, and I will say that while the past few years have been difficult, I wouldn't change them. But after I was diagnosed and as I was going through therapy, I realized it was affecting my family and my friends just as much as it was affecting me. They wanted to help, but I wasn't able at the time to convey what I needed. A friend of mine recently wrote me a letter and described that situation quite well. She said, "It's like saying the trees are orange, and the world is around you in a circle saying the trees are purple. And furthermore, why would you say that they're black?" There are more than enough stats and infographics on depression. I'm not here today to talk about that. But I'm sharing my story to try and convey what every stage of depression looks and feels like, how it can affect life, and how you can help support someone with a mood disorder. I'm here to give depression a face, and a story, and a happy ending. So while depression manifests itself in many ways, mine was a textbook case. And 2 years ago, it started affecting my life in earnest. While I took a semester off, my grades were improving. I'd seen several counselors to no long-lasting effect. And while I was social enough to pass for fine and my problems were easy enough to hide, I found a new identity in thinking dark thoughts and feeling nothing, in being alone, and this was not my normal. So there's a term called state of escalation. Everyone has their normal. Some people are more energetic, some more relaxed, but someone is in a state of escalation if their emotions and actions change from that normal. At one end of the spectrum, we have panic attacks, insomnia, speaking too fast. I lie at the other end of the spectrum, sleeping 18 hours a day, being slow to action, having difficulty concentrating. Often, the different symptoms of depression build off of each other. So we might start with an emotional change, feeling guilty, empty, feeling irritable or anxious. And that could lead to a behavioral change, a loss of interest in things that you once enjoyed, forgetfulness, neglect for your responsibilities or your appearance. And both of these can affect you physically. Change in sleeping patterns, change in appetite, and even chronic headaches and stomach aches that don't respond to medication. It's important to address these symptoms as soon as they start. And if someone is in an escalated state, it's important to ground them. Ask them sensory questions, what they see, hear, smell, what's in the room, what did they have for lunch for the past week. Try to keep them grounded and in the room with you and present. As soon as feelings are more neutral, then it's safe to talk about what's been bothering them, and most of the time that's enough to get someone out of a funk, but sometimes it's not. As the semester progressed, I worsened, and I lost the ability to act in my own self-interest. Now, college is remarkable. There are innumerable resources available in support of mental health, but it's difficult to take advantage of those resources when you don't feel human, when you feel like nothing and have for months or years at a time. I used to justify my self-hating talk as a safeguard against egotism. I would constantly say to myself, "You're a fucking piece of shit. No one wants to be around you. You're an asshole and a bitch." And I was usually able to maintain a life in spite of that, but those started to change me completely. It was as if time no longer existed, as if the future was no longer a reality. Objectively, I knew that there were going to be consequences to staying in bed all day or skipping class, but I was numb to them most of the time. That February, after seeing a senior thesis, I had my first panic attack in Pierce Hall, hyperventilating, feeling like my chest was going to crack open, crying, alone in a bathroom stall. It physically hurt. I started waking up, feeling every cell in my body vibrate with tension and fear and anger and anxiety all at the same time, and it was paralyzing. I lost my morals, my morale, my reasoning, and my life, but I knew that something had to change. After withdrawing from 2 classes, and for all intents and purposes, failing another, spring break rolled around, and when I went home, the first thing I said to my mom wasn't hello, but I need to see somebody. We could blame my downward spirals on other things in the past, senioritis, culture shock, or bad breakup, but this time we really needed to address the issue. So getting diagnosed was both the best and the most terrifying thing in the world. I was told that my thoughts weren't normal, that I was, in fact, severely depressed, and that there was a way to get better. I mean, I was over the moon. And I felt hope for myself for the first time in years. And it was so overwhelming, I started bawling in the psychiatrist's parking lot. And then my mother and I went out to get celebratory lattes. It might sound weird, but it's definitely one of my top 5 favorite days. So things were going to get better, but it wasn't going to be easy. I started taking an antidepressant, and while it helped dramatically with my day-to-day life, it meant that I could no longer drink. And as most people know, drinking is the primary social activity for people in college. In the beginning, I drank a few times. I was trying to maintain a semblance of normalcy. Each time it ended very, very, very badly. Not only does it give you the worst hangover you've had in your entire life, but it also changes the neurochemistry that the antidepressant was fixing. So not only are you sick for days, but you're back to square one. So speaking directly to college students, it's important to be the sober buddy for someone who feels unwanted because they can't participate. And trust me, depressed people are very good at convincing themselves of that. Now, there was one outcome, I guess you could say, of diagnosis that I wasn't fully expecting. When I came back to campus, I was very, very excited about my diagnosis. I was going to get better. I mean, this was a huge personal triumph. And when I started sharing this with friends, some opened up to me and said that they were also taking that same antidepressant, or that they had. It's in fact prescribed quite often, and in all honesty, depression isn't all that uncommon. The National Institute of Mental Health, in a 2012 study, concluded that just under 10% of 18 to 25-year-olds suffer a major depressive episode every year. While I can look back now and be very thankful for the openness of my peers, then I internalized it as me becoming anonymous and unimportant. I felt like my emotions and my success were invalidated. So when I talk to people now that perhaps just got diagnosed, I try to focus on the excitement and revitalize the energy to self-discovery. And we can save the personal anecdotes for later. The summer of 2013 was solely dedicated to recovery. I started going to dialectical behavioral therapy, which is an intensive outpatient group support group, I should say, for those with mood disorders. And I did that 4 hours a day for 3 days a week. On the off days, I would see a therapist, and every couple of weeks, I would check back in with my psychiatrist to make sure that we had the right balance of medications. It takes all of a person's energy and concentration to change the way that they think, to rebalance their life, and to create new patterns in lieu of old and unhealthy ones. Just know that this is exhausting. And it is very, very challenging to confront yourself, your instinctual self, and sometimes the self that you have deliberately created as needing to be changed. I'm not proud to say that sometimes I took my frustrations out on my family. Just know that emotions are symptomatic of thoughts. And if someone says something very hurtful to you, it is more likely than not coming from a place of extreme self-hatred and unhappiness. There are other reasons why someone might be acting strangely. Some people, like myself, take antidepressants to rebalance their serotonin or dopamine levels, among other things. And I was lucky. The first 2 I tried for me worked. And of course, they have their symptoms. So the first one I started taking makes me very tired. And the second I take to, in part, combat that fatigue has the darling side effect of what I can only describe as unprovoked bouts of rage when you first start taking it. And that only happened to me twice, but I lost all control. I was slamming doors. I was punching and scratching myself. I was silently screaming. I was going through all of the physical aspects of rage without ever feeling rage, and it was very, very surreal. But after that, everything was fine. I was still a little tired, so I wanted to try a new medication to see if that helped anything. That one left me puking for 9 hours straight and left me nauseous for a week. And again, I say I was lucky. Some people have to try upwards of 10. And you never know how you're going to react. So it can be a whirlwind of new medications and new emotions. Don't counsel. Leave that to the professionals. But don't let someone isolate in the way that they're going to want to. If they can't reach out for them. help create a new normal and some comfort when times seem so tumultuous and unsure. It won't always last. Let's speed up to right now. And I'm doing very well. I'm doing better than I ever have at college. I am a peer counselor now, and I am avidly pursuing my interests in theater and art history. But this part of the process is riddled with anxiety. The academic consequences of my time dealing with depression at college are a huge concern, especially since I will be applying to fellowships in grad schools within the year. Speaking to professors and advisors, brainstorm. You have the ability to make someone feel secure in their future by helping them with an independent project or working on an extracurricular paper, or even just commenting on their work. And for friends and family, it all comes back to listening. This problem is all too real. And it's concerning and even troubling to try and realize that this person you are completely dissociated from has affected your new future. Just support them and help them and know that they are loved no matter what they choose in their future. Sometimes Winston Churchill says it best. So recovering and therapy can be redundant and exhausting and tiring for everyone involved, but it is well worth it. At the end is a certain brand of self-assurance, knowing that if you could get through that, you can get through anything. But it helps to have a team. I only recovered so fast, and I'm doing so well because of the continued support of my parents, who were the inspirations for this talk today. If you know someone with a mood disorder, the best way to support them is perhaps the simplest. Include them. Let them know that you notice. There's no way to fully understand. You can't put yourself in that exact feeling, so don't try to have them explain. But instead ask them to tell you what it's like a day in their shoes. Go with them on their journey to rediscovery. Listen, and remind them that they have been, are, and will always be a person of worth.